Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Doctor Who review, episode 85. Yeah, it's been a year since I did this one. It just because I haven't got back Doctor Who in a while, I figured why not? So basically with this one, it's basically discussing, well, the 89th story ever released for Doctor Who. And it's also noteworthy for being a debut of a character who there was one very known critic in the 70s who hated this character's appearance. We'll talk about that. I watched on too, but I do have a DVD right here of it. We have Doctor Who, The Face of Evil. Released from the time period of January 1st to the 22nd of 1977. Yeah, in case you're curious though, this came out during Doctor Who's 14th season. This was, in fact, the 5th story of that season. Yes, because I did discuss the previous story already, The Deadly Assassin. Really good story. It is the only classic Doctor Who story with where a Doctor appears and he has no companions. It is the first time and only time ever in classic Doctor Who to ever happen. So, next episode begins quite interestingly with the new companion. Well, the woman becomes the companion by the end of the story. That being Leela. That's her right there. Played by Leslie Jameson. And there was a well-known British critic from the 70s who complained a lot about Doctor Who stuff. Like, I would say for the early portion of it, there was no really major complaints. It's when she came on board that basically she started whining about Doctor Who. Yes. You see, Mary Whitehouse, that's her name, hated the character of Leela. And Leela basically lasted the end of the next season, being The Invasion of Time, an excellent story that featured Return of the Centaurans. This is only the second ever story I've discussed for her, even though that yes, this is technically her debut story. So we start with her being banished for being for heresy because she dare go against their savage god. I think his name is Zotan. I think it is. So yeah, I think the prophet is basically like non-believer. So she's because she dare criticize a raid they're going to do. So she is banished, and then the Doctor randomly shows up, and he breaks the fourth wall. It's like, interesting. He's like talking to the camera, talking to the audience. Like, oh, I'm only like 742 years old. Yeah, this is the only time I've ever heard he ever did this in the series, where he broke the fourth wall on screen. Well, technically he did do this during the first Doctor, but Tom Baker, this was, as far as I could tell, the only time he ever did this. So then he meets Leela, and I mentioned about this face of evil thing, which this face becomes a primary location in part 4. Yeah, it's a 4-part story, which typical Tom Baker stories generally be 4 parts. Yeah, that's the thing about Tom Baker. Sometimes basically it's 4 parts. Like, if occasionally it's 4 parts or 6. This one's 4. Oh, and in case you're asking, was there any stories in season 14 that was 6 parts? The finale was 6 parts. Yes. I might eventually talk about that eventually. The Talents of Wing Chien. Excuse me, which is a very controversial classic Who story. So, Leela is a savage. She carries on a knife, threatens people, and the whole thing is basically look at these relics. Oh, look at this scanner. Are you afraid of this scanner? And Doctor's like, that doesn't scare me. Yeah. This is what the prophet guy, he's so funny. Like, oh, he's like talking to a helmet that's connected to their god that they worship. Oh, we must have this raid. And eventually he's captured at one point. And then, of course, like, oh, go through this test. We have to go this. And, of course, basically, this guy who, this Leela gives him advice. And then there's this guy who's part of the tribe slaps her, and then of course he asks basically a guy who worked with him previously in the story. His name is not Thomas. This is Caleb. Caleb is the guy who basically is in agreement with Leela until basically he really wants basically a guy named Andor's spot. He wants that comfy chair that he sits in, which looks like a chair from a spaceship, because basically that's what it is. Yes, apparent, and it's revealed in part 4 that they're part of a survey team, and the enemy is the technicians. Yes, seriously, and we'll get to those guys. They pop up at the end. They pop up during part 3 of the story. The technicians, which they are really bizarre, and they have weird outfits. So like, let's have the good about it. Let's have the prop put on this glove on his head. I'm like, are you freaking serious? That's your battle armor? Put on this vest that's basically wires, and put on a hat that's basically a glove. Yeah. I laugh at the fact that he basically thinks his technology is good to wear. Oh yeah, at one point in the story, Lee gets poisoned. And the doctor has, I'm going kind of out of order here. So the doctor uses it basically like, oh, there's no cure. And the doctor's like, yeah, there is. Just gotta look for it. He finds no problem, cures her hand, no problem. And there's this test they have, they tease it with her father going through it, and he fails. In the case of the doctor, well, he passes it by firing a crossbow. Yes, a crossbow. I'm not really sure of how the heck they made these damn things, but okay. So he fires at this rock, and he passed test, no problem. They immediately believe the fact he actually is not a god. Like, okay, interesting. So, yeah, and of course, he has to have his question, how do you commit only in the shrine? And he's like, insane. So, they keep breaking into like the shrine, which is basically like a bionic slab, where this place is. So they find the barrier, and it's like some time thing, like something scary. And then eventually they go to the face, where it looks like somebody carved the doctor's face into a mountain, like it's freaking Mount Rushmore. So how does he get? Where's the bridge? They mentioned about a bridge. Oh, what is the bridge? Oh, like, is it a nose? And the doctor's like, no, it's through the mouth, the teeth. It's like, oh, I'm going through my own throat. And then we see this guy in a spacesuit. He walks to a wall, like, oh, this is a teleporter. So he just closes his eyes, walks through, Lee does the same thing, and then they're on what they call a tower, which is literally just a spaceship. Like, oh, they're in this room, and it apparently is like the main control room of the ship, which has been turned into a shrine, where some of the components from the computers are turned into candles, and the consoles are covered up with cloth. And then we're introduced to the technicians, where the guy's like, oh, let's bow to each other like we're complete idiots. And Doctor points out to this, like, why are you kneeling on the floor? Like, aren't you Lord of Time? Yeah, he is. He's one of many Lords of Time. Oh yeah, and basically the god that these two people worship, it's a computer, which has a dual personality that was caused by the Doctor trying to help them. Inadvertently, the computer evolved into a sentient species, and the only way to stop him from, get this, trying to self-destruct the frickin' spaceship they're on, which the surveyors call a tower. So he does this by wiping out the other personality. Basically, he turned back normal. Like, oh, we can't debate who the leader is. Oh, by the way, Andor's killed by one of the projection things. Yes, after somebody else is killed, and basically Caleb was proclaimed the leader. And basically, it's like they had to basically like Thomas. Yes, it's Thomas. It's like basically like a barbarian saying, like, it's like they say in like a barbaric type of way. And like, oh, the surveyors are because they're basically not part of the spaceship. Like, oh, it's just like, oh, Captain who the leader is. Like, Caleb's like, no, basically, like, what's happening? And eventually in the story, Leela's selected as leader. Now, she goes with the Doctor, by just walking right past him. And Sora's like, oh, don't press that. And of course, the door closes and the thing activates. You're like, wow. Yeah, that's kind of the story in a nutshell. I gotta admit, the sets are actually pretty good for this story. Now, I do not agree with Mary Whitehouse's criticism of Leela. She's not like, oh, you don't like because she wears his outfit and that she's savage. Look, the actress who played her was a very lovely woman at the time. Mary Whitehouse clearly does not know what a beautiful woman is at all, even though she's a woman. Yeah, I don't get basically her criticizing her. It is kind of odd, to say the least. The story is okay at best, but for the introduction of a new companion, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. I think the actress who plays Leah does an excellent job. Basically, just good ground ruling for her. And by the way, her outfit she wears, she'll wear it in every story she appears in, but one. Yeah, the Talisman China is the only time they actually have her change her attire. The rest of the time, she basically wears this savage attire. And despite that, here's the thing. She is from the future, and yet she acts like she's from caveman times. Kind of, in a way. Though she's very intelligent. Also, there was one thing interesting about her is that her eyes in the episode that are, I think they're supposed to be like a different color. I think they're supposed to be brown. I think they are. Either brown, green. They're contacts. Basically, started this episode up until Horror Fang Rock, she wears contacts. And from what I've heard, the reason why after the Horror Fang Rock that she stopped wearing them because they give her headaches. So basically, she was allowed to stop wearing it, which I'm like, fine. That's perfectly fine. That's very reasonable. But I do like the top. I would say probably the biggest highlight of the story, aside from the Doctor himself, is the wonderful sets, the acting by Leela. I think the actors, the supporting actors in the episode are just hilariously bad. Yeah, it's like the over the top for some of the reasons. Oh, by the way, what happens to the Prophet? Oh, he gets vaporized by the computer. And Doctor basically purges the dual personality by putting the device on his head, and he is unconscious for 2 days. Oh, okay, he's staying for 2 days. And, well, that's the business, basically the computer, who basically conjures out of thin air a couch and a table. And Leela sits on it, cross-legged, like she's never seen a couch before. By the way, the couch they sit on, this is a couch basically that's, from what I can tell, something like, I would say it's probably like a 70s style couch, definitely. But because I've seen many different couches. Like, I've been to a museum that basically has furniture throughout the frickin' decades. Yes, I've been to a museum in New York about that. The way this couch looks they have here, it looks like it's a couch from the 19th century. Despite the fact the thing was aired back in the 70s. The couch was fine. I had no problem with the couch. I mean, it looked for a couple to sit on. Yes. But it's an okay story. But there's that. The artwork on the DVD cover has been inaccurate. One thing, the monument of this Doctor's face does not look like that in the story at all. No. It's a very weird rendition. Normally when I would take pictures from the actual stories themselves, usually they just do a better job with the actors. This looks like it was painted. It looks like it was a very weird rendition. It's like very much photoshopped. Yes, very much photoshopped with this particular picture they have on the cover. But in case you're curious though, on the back, that's what the actors look like. Yep. Excuse me. So, what rating would I give this story? I give it a 8 out of 10. Yep. So I got a lot more to go when it comes to Doctor Who. And in case you're curious, how many left to go for season 15 and overall for season 14 and overall for the fourth Doctor? For season 14, I have 1, 2, 3, only 4 left. Overall, fourth Doctor is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. There's overall 20 left. You're like, really? 20 left? Yeah. 20 left overall left to go for the entire series. Well, basically for in the case of the Fourth Doctor. If you want to ask me what has the least amount of stories left to go, ones I've covered so far. It's probably the sixth or fifth. These two covered a lot of stories for them. And also the Third Doctor, obviously. Yeah, the Third Doctor's got one. Let's see. Third Doctor has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, the Third Doctor has got 7 stories left. Yeah, 7 stories. And the thing is, I haven't covered a lot. I've covered a good chunk of his run. If you want to ask me personally, what could be like the first Doctor can finish? It depends on which one. Yes, it just depends on which one. I don't really know what could be the first one. What about the second Doctor? How many does he have left to go? As of right now, 1, 2, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's roughly 8 stories left to go for second Doctor. Yep, 8 more to go. All right, how about Fifth Doctor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He has 6 left, but that is less than third. Sixth Doctor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, tie. Seventh Doctor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Roughly 8 stories left to go for him. So I'd say 5th and 6th basically got the least amount left to go. I'd say second least is probably going to be the third. I would say 2nd and 7th got the third shortest. Who has the most? 1st and 4th. Okay, and another obvious question is, will I be covering the most recent season? Like, will I be covering the 14th and 15th Doctors? Eventually I will. But right now I'm focusing on classic Doctor Who. Yep. So yeah, that's particularly a particular view. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and do not hit the dislike button. Well, next up basically is a couple comic corners. And maybe one more after that, but I'm not sure. It depends. Okay? Next video. Bye.